Now the other advantage is when this alternator is cycling, charging the battery, it's doing it real quick. So if you see on YouTube, you can look at the tests they've had where they show the engine running without it, and with it you'll see the tensioner bobbling up and down on a car that does not have one of these declutched pulleys, and one that has, it's usually very smooth. These are kind of expensive. The A3s are more expensive than the A4s, but that's just the way it is. This one lasted 317,000 miles. I think this was about $85, so no big deal. So, but again, that's how it works. It drives in this location and it freewheels in this location. So I'm going to go get the tools and show you how to remove the pulley from the alternator. So how do you remove this? Well, let me pull this out of the way and let me just show you. The new pulley, as I said before, has splines. This is a kit. Comes with this. I got this from Metal Nerd. These pulleys are used on a lot of German cars and other foreign cars like Audi, Seat, Skoda, most of the Volkswagen. I think all the TDIs use these. Some of the older diesels probably just use the regular solid pulley. So the one that I'm using is this one. It's the fine serrated one, and this would just go directly in there like that. You take a 17mm wrench, and remember the pulley is what we're unscrewing off the shaft. So we're going to hold with our ratchet this to hold the shaft still, and then we're going to take our wrench and remove the pulley. Now that's easy to tell you an explanation. Again, as I told you before, this is a little difficult to remove. So what I had done beforehand is I've sprayed a little bit of PB Blaster in here to try to let it penetrate and soak for a couple days. And it just is what it is. I had to take this and put this in a vise to be able to hold this because I could not do it on my work surface here. So it's already been pre-loosened a little bit. So getting the serrated portion of your tool into the pulley, as you see, this doesn't go in quite as nicely as this does when it's new. It doesn't have any debris in it. You know, there is some micro rust in there. But if you'll just rock it back gently, and you can take a hammer or just the edge of a screwdriver, and it'll slide down just like that. Okay, so now this portion of the tool is got the pulley portion. Now what we have to do is we have to hold the alternator shaft. So I'm going to take this portion of the tool very gently, put it in there till I feel it connect. I'll take my 17mm wrench. Make sure I'm going to be turning this the right way. What you have to do is you have to hold the center bit with your 14mm. I use a small little breaker bar. Alright, and then I'm going to be turning the pulley, or the large serrated bit, counterclockwise. Okay, it just broke loose. So now that it's hand tight, I'm holding the shaft with this, and the pulley is going to be unscrewing from the alternator now. Okay, so I can remove this and just unscrew it off. Okay, and you can see all my PB Blaster that's on there. So it did a good job. All right, so just pull the tool out. So this just screws on. Okay, once it gets to that point, we're going to put this tool back in here. We're going to put the shaft holding bolt back in. Now we took this off counterclockwise, so we're going to put it back on clockwise. Again, we're going to hold the shaft. Okay, That's all there is to it. Now the pulley's on there just like it's supposed to be, and the next step is we need to take the alternator and put it back into the car. Alright, one last thing we have to do to the alternator is we have to take the plastic cap and snap it back on the end. Don't forget that. It keeps debris and water from clogging it up. The best way to do this is just to grab the alternator like this and lift the line up. And you're going to have to rotate and just finagle this back in. Okay, you see what I did was I put it in and then I rotated it up, and I ended up where the two legs are facing the engine. And this line just gives just enough clearance. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to put the alternator back on the engine. So the way that I'm going to do that is there's two mounting points here and here, and I've already put a little grease on them, and it's extremely tight to get these on. So once you get them on like that, I'm going to take my hand and just kind of push it down like that. You can, if you want, try to compress these spacers. I tried to do that and they wouldn't move. So if the thing came off, it's just going to take a little bit more effort to get it back on. But I'm going to go get a pry bar, and then I'll show you how I maneuver the alternator back up against the engine. Alright, so what I did was I got my crowbar, and I have manipulated the alternator just a little bit to where I could get the top bolt in, and I put the bottom bolt in, and I just kind of just wiggle it a little bit, and I'm turning it with my fingers. What this does is it seats the alternator. I'm not really putting any pressure on it. You can do it a little bit this way, a little bit that way, and just turn it until you get or just slightly move it till you feel the bolt going in loosely. I'll loosen it just a little bit, and this is a 13mm, by the way. To me, this is really the hardest part of the job, is getting the bolt in there properly. Now, once you can get it started, you can go ahead and see if it'll go ahead and tighten up. Now, we've got the alternator in. What we need to do is we need to, there's a couple things we can do here, but I'm going to push the tensioner back in. Okay, once the tensioner engages, there's a small Torx screw that goes in the back. Went ahead and put on my power wire for the alternator. I put the 3 screws in that I had forgotten to do while it was on the bench for the back cover, and I also put my clamp for the wire holder that goes to the alternator. Now, I have to put the small Torx screw, or an Allen head screw, that goes back in there. And this is what this is. This goes through the center of the spring and attaches to the rod. So I'm going to do that. I can't get a good shot. The sun is a little bit pointing the wrong way for me today, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I'm going to show you how to put the belt back on. Alright, the best way that I found to put the belt on, let me tilt the camera over here, is take my pry bar and just put it right in where the roller is, and very gently just lever it back. That's how this works. So pull this back while you're feeding the belt around. Remember, it's got to go over our new pulley, under the tensioner, and I've got to make sure it's on the crank properly. There we go. And just eye it. If the belt's not right, it will not stay on there very long. So I've got the belt on, we've got the alternator back on. The next thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and put my air box back in. This job is done. Now let's go and start the engine, and hopefully we've got some voltage charging. Well, good news. We're charging at 13.9, 14 volts. 14.1, exactly where it should be. So the voltage regulator really, in this instance, was the problem. So it saved me from having to buy an alternator. So that's excellent, excellent news. Let me go out and show you how smooth the belt is with the declutched pulley operating properly. That tensioner is absolutely stable. Exactly what we wanted. Successful job.